Okay, so this is why it is important for you to know about Billy Hughes. And I just, today is Thursday, August 6th. Yesterday there was a march for Billy Hughes. There is a term called Angelversary, where the day that somebody was killed or died, or usually in these marches murdered by the police, the year to the day, we come back and we march for them, we remember them, we honor them, we see them. You know, we kind of we fulfill the narrative about them as we've known it, or as people closest to them has known it. And yesterday we marched for Billy Hughes, and this is from what I saw, and this is kind of a general arc of all these Angelversaries. And we marched from the site where Billy Hughes was murdered by the St. Paul Police Department, which is known as one of the most lethal police departments in the country. If you don't know, right now St. Paul Police Department are offering many of their services to have a police liaison at some of the marches, and many of the march organizers are not so respectfully declining. And it only makes sense. It's like, why are you reaching out? We don't want you here. And so the thing that I found profound about the story of Billy Hughes was the headlines on it. And we'll go into this a little bit later about wellness checks, but reportedly Billy was having kind of a somewhat of a tough day. And he came out of his house. Somebody called the cops on him. He was coming out of his house. They said he had a gun on him. And they said, put your hands up, put your hands up. As he raised his hands, they shot him 21 times. And we get into this idea of, he was unstable. They were having an unstable moment. And, you turn it around and you say, well, there's this group of people that just showed up with guns and badges and shot a man 21 times. You tell me who's unstable. It doesn't sound like Billy had the opportunity to put his hands up. It doesn't sound like he was given the opportunity that many white people have been afforded in these situations. And you see the videos of just white folks gone wild, and they got a gun and they're like pointing it, or the Michigan militias pulling up on the state capitol, or even just white folks are pulling up on the state capitol with AR-15s, and they don't want to wear masks. Gosh darn it, I don't want these COVID laws on me. And they are all able to safely walk back to their cars and go home. And for brown and black folks, it's important to point out that Billy Hughes is Indigenous and part of the White Earth community. Their cousin said at the march, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to speak incorrectly on Billy's name and background. However, it's important to know that Billy is a person of color, is what I'm saying. And it just not afforded at all the same opportunities as white people. And that is to put your hands up. And what I saw was NPR, even though they were saying it's what the prosecutors said, it just is so damn dangerous to say this. They used the word justified in the headline. Now, I'm taking that out of context a little bit. However, it's still within the scope of the headline of telling why was this man killed so suddenly and so justifiably. When you associate the word justified with brown bodies killed by the cops, that just can't go unnoticed. You can't, and that's a public news syndication. You got to be kidding me. Like, NPR is, all of that stuff is problematic, like big time. Like, you just to just report on his name like that. It's for me, it just goes beyond like comprehension. Like, why would you say that? Like, of all the words you could use as a paid journalist, as paid editors, as paid writers, you gotta be able to use something differently than that. And the story of Billy Hughes is not that. It's not that at all. And you listen to the people, it's different. It's way different. And it's the same thing with Terrence Franklin, with Jamara Clark. I mean, everybody down the line. They get reported as, dehumanized. They get reported as monsters. But then you speak to the family members and it's like, no, they would never do that. They would never say that. Like, why are they reporting them as some, like, you know, some angry outburst or eruption of emotions? And when you hear the stories that were told of Billy Hughes, it was not that. It was not that at all. And I think Billy Hughes is a very important piece of Minnesota history, in that you have land that was taken from indigenous folks by white folks. They created an institution called law enforcement, runaway slave catchers. That institution then grows to become the police department, and then shows up to the doorstep of an indigenous person and kills them. And then a news institution that's primarily made up of white folks uses the word justified in the headline. That through line of dehumanization is unacceptable. It is dangerous. It's violent. And it's something that I think we need to take note of and make commentary on. And I'm curious, how do you feel about that? Really, how do you feel about that? This is something that, you know, NPR may report on objectively, and then, and I say objectively, I don't mean to like throw that in the face. I mean, like, the word objectively is being used so often. It's like, no, we just said what they said, and it's there's no onus there. It's devoid of emotion. It's got this like slant to it that is saying, well, no, it's just the way we saw it. That's just the way that was reported to us, and it takes the onus off of these white media companies, and they're really the ones that are spinning stories about people of color, and it's hard to hear. And I'm curious what you think about that. And I'm curious how you feel about the stories of brown and black folks getting rearranged and then made to suit or be justifiable killings by police departments. So how do you feel about that? And if I do find somewhere that is of some service to actually read up on Billy Hughes, I will put the link below. But Billy Hughes this isn't just solely about Billy. It's about all bodies of color that are taken by police departments, and then white media outlets then spinning the story about them afterwards. And Billy just happened yesterday, and that was a very special story that I did not know about. Didn't hear about a lot of these names up until now. So I think it's time to educate ourselves and figure out what we trust going forward. So thanks for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.